Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WODcast podcast. How cool is this? We're in a studio right now. You're wondering, how did I make this happen? Well, I didn't. My managers did. So we are somewhere in the Arson House studio. Do you have a name for it yet, Chris?
Outer Circle Media.
Oh, what a horrible name. Who came up with that?
Not me.
Renee?
What's up?
Did you come up with Outer Circle Media?
It was a group effort.
Jesus Christ. You should have.
Inner circle, we're part of the outer circle.
Oh, I get it. I get it. Like, you're not part of the cool kids.
Exactly.
I got it. So I belong here. So we're here at Outer Circle Media. That's a good name. I think it's very professional. Today's guest, very interesting. Very few people do I meet that advertise on the show that I go, I want to have them on. In fact, I usually don't want to have them on because then it sounds like I'm putting them on because they're paying for it. But most of the time before I get an advertiser, I got to talk to them. I got to believe in the product, and I have to be able to feel like I can get behind it. Because if I don't, then people are going to sniff it out, and they're not going to want it and whatever, and they're going to think I'm full of shit. But one of the companies that does advertise at times on our show is O2, which is a recovery drink, and it's delicious. I don't know what it does for you. You know, you think you don't know everything. You really don't know, but I got on the phone. I talked with you're one of the owners?
Mm-hmm.
One of the owners who's sitting right beside me right now, Dave Colina. Did I say that right? I got it wrong again. It's like Julio Alcaraz. I called Julian Alcaraz Julio, and I thought he was going to snap my neck. So how do I say it? Colina. That's like, but that kind of sounds like colitis or something. Is colitis?
Thank you. That's what we were going for.
Yeah.
With the name.
I shouldn't talk with IFT. Anyway, we got on the phone. I think we had like a 3-hour phone conversation.
Great. Yeah.
And we just bonded over everything. We talked about everything. And it was like, we should have done this as a podcast. So in California now, I was like, no, you're coming on the show. So we were here. And then he brought this other guy along, Eric Lee.
Eric Lee.
I can't mispronounce that.
Exactly.
And
We're
Eric
competing for the shortest last name.
That is pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Like, mine's IFT.
L-E.
Yeah. Ellie.
Yeah, just L and E.
That's it.
Yeah, 2 letters.
That's fucking awesome.
I know.
I would have loved that name. I'm IFFT, and some guy said to me one day, you don't need the second F. And I was like, he's totally right. And I was like, I've been wasting all that time in life. I would like it. I wouldn't like IF or IT. Yeah, I got to stick with IFT. I think I'm going to shorten my name. L-E. That's it.
L-E, yeah. Anytime I meet anyone with L-E-E, I'm like, oh.
Is
inefficient.
that Chinese?
Vietnamese.
Yeah. Is that a very common name? Vietnamese name?
Yeah,
Okay.
It is in Vietnamese, yep.
Oh, so good.
Do you get Lay ever? Like versus Lee?
I was like, did you just ask me if I got Lay?
Yeah, I thought he did too.
It's like,
That's so
HR violation?
I thought it was Eric Lay for a while. And
so supposedly that is actually how it's supposed to be pronounced, like in Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But you were like, no, we're going with Lee.
Yeah, we're going with Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce, come on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. All right. So these guys came in. You're in Cincinnati. I don't know why. You are in Houston.
Yeah.
You CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
I do.
You're both CrossFitters. Is that how you met?
No, actually, we met through this is charming, a recruiter.
Yeah.
So the most like synthetic way you can meet somebody.
Yeah.
How's his sound? Can you hear him?
Yes.
Okay, because you're far from the mic. I don't know how these mics work. How about the listeners of the show are really upset by all my static. You're going to get no static today, so ha ha ha. So you met how?
A recruiter. We were looking for somebody who kind of had a very specific skill set and knew the space to lead marketing at O2. And so we hired a recruiter, and she found Eric.
Okay, yeah. I don't want to make this like a giant infomercial, but your drink is fucking amazing because it's delicious, and it's I talk about it on the show, and I'm not going to do an ad right now, but explain the oxygen in the water.
No, I'm happy to. So it's called O2 because it's made with about 7 times more oxygen than normal water. And the way that we do that, and I'll tell you why we do that in a second, the way that we do that is kind of similar to how you would carbonate a product, but instead of injecting CO2 into the liquid, we're injecting O2 into the liquid. So it drinks like a still product. It doesn't drink like, you don't taste fizz, there's no bubbles when you drink it, but it's made with a lot of oxygen. And when I first set out to make this product, I originally set out to make kind of like a healthier combination of all the stuff from energy drinks and sports drinks that I liked without any of the bullshit.
Right.
And then I partnered with a physician, and the physician did a bunch of research, and he found that oxygenated fluids actually help your body process toxins and recover faster. And so that's when the idea for O2 was really born, was from the medical literature that already existed. And
So there is medical literature, because I feel like I've been listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with Chris Kresser and James Wilkes, who had their debate on meat versus a whole plant diet. I've listened to it for like 12 hours. I've listened to it over and over and over.
So you're only halfway through.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 4 hours long.
Yeah, it was.
And it was all they talked about was the medical literature, the medical literature, the medical literature. And I'm one of those people, like, you show me one study, I'm like, yep,
done.
I got my proof.
Right.
I'm ready to go. And now I feel like I'm a poser, and I'm like, no, I need to show me
17.
You know, I need peer
at least.
reviewed.
Yeah,
I need,
yeah.
thanks to Joe Rogan, I need the, you got to show me the consensus. There was so much about it. So is there a consensus? I mean, is there a lot of studies
Certainly
done on this?
in the medical community, for sure.
Okay.
Dating all the way back to 1951, I think, was the first study that was done to explore the accelerating effects of ingested oxygen on the liver's metabolism of toxins and recovery in particular. The reason that you don't see a bunch of oxygenated products on the market, and we had no idea when we were setting out to make O2, is because it's really fucking hard to manufacture an oxygenated liquid. Almost nobody does it. And so when we set out to do this, we were like, oh, it can't be that hard. It's just like injecting carbonation, different gas, whatever. Turns out it's really, really hard.
Why is it hard? How do you do it?
It's a great
Is it a
question.
secret?
It's
Like
it's
that
a
you don't wanna
triple
give
top
up?
secret. Yep.
Oh, it is?
We do
Really?
have a proprietary process. But it's hard because up until fairly recently, first, the demand hasn't been there, because this isn't, physicians aren't making products on the regular, right? And so nobody really saw an opportunity to take these studies and these insights that they developed from all this literature and commercialize it until fairly recently. So there are more oxygenated products.
So all the
coming to
doctors
market.
started making less and less
Yeah,
money.
they needed
thanks
to make-
healthcare.
yes,
They were
exactly.
like, hey, I think I can get into
We need
this.
an ancillary source of income. Exactly.
My dad had a good friend growing up who was a cardiologist or a cardiothoracic surgeon who developed a lot of things to assist people with pulmonary problems and heart problems, and that company ended up growing into what's called Respironics.
Well, that
If
sounds
you know
fancy.
Respironics, it's like it's on the stock exchange. It's like a multi-billion-dollar company. Like anytime you see anybody wearing a CPAP or a BiPAP, or they built parts for the artificial heart. They like artificial valves that people use. I mean, he was just probably making a couple mil a year as a cardiothoracic surgeon. And he's like, why don't I,
Right.
sell some stuff on the side?
Right.
So your doctor friend, he's the co-owner with you?
He is the co-founder of O2. He's not active in the business anymore. Once we kind of developed the recipe, so to speak, there wasn't much for him to do.
Oh, he's not. He just sits and collects checks.
That's kind of
Yeah.
that's the life, man. That's that
Yeah.
physician life. They don't work hard at all. So.
No, not at all.
But he's still actively involved in
What kind of
innovation.
doctor is he?
He is a PM&R physician, so physical medicine and rehabilitation.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Is he an athlete also?
He is actually.
Okay.
He's an endurance athlete. So he runs a lot of the same crazy shit that you just did.
So did you two meet like at a gym or something?
No, it's much less noble. We met at a bar basically and became drinking buddies. So he and I first met through. I cut my entrepreneurial teeth on a initiative to open a nonprofit charter high school in Columbus called Cristo Rey. And so I was leading that, and I needed a bunch of people to help me. And so he was a friend of a friend. So he got involved that way, but we really became friends, like anybody in their 20s.
You have no children. Why did you get into charter high schools?
I think it's a great question. So I think that I was working a kind of a more traditional corporate job, and I'd been there for about 3 years, and I was kind of bored.
Yeah.
I was in corporate strategy, and I was making a lot of money, but it just wasn't very rewarding. I was kind of effectively selling insurance.
Yeah.
And
I know
so
that. Ohio, that's all you do.
that's a
Cincinnati.
big part of it, right?
Yeah, the insurance capital of the world.
So I
We hope you don't die.
please. So I had a person who I worked with who was on the founding board of this organization that started the first one of these high schools in Chicago in 1996. And then Bill and Melinda Gates got involved in 1999, I think. And then there became a network. And he said it was one of the most rewarding things that he'd ever done in his life. And so I'm looking for something like that.
Yeah,
I need to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, I'll help you do that as long as you do all the work. And so that's when, that's kind of when
Okay, I got it, because same thing. I actually was working in insurance also. My dad has an insurance brokerage firm, and I worked for him for it was such a short time, but I was like, fuck.
Yeah, totally.
This,
100%.
I'm out of here.
Right? Totally.
I mean, I love my dad, and it's very noble what he does, but I was just like,
it's boring.
I was driving to work wearing a suit, and I'm like, wait, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I got to get the fuck out of here. And I went to like an open mic in comedy, and I was like, okay,
I'll do this.
I just think I found my exit strategy. So, geez, to think what I could have been. And I'm not putting down anyone out there that does it. There's
it's definitely a comfortable lifestyle, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a much more comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah, that didn't have the risk that this had.
Totally.
But I just get why you now. I was trying to figure out why you went into the charter thing. So you pump the oxygen in here. One thing you told me, which is awesome, is you told me it's really good for a hangover.
It is. So it's so funny. So I was just thinking about this. You mentioned physicians and kind of commercializing stuff. So the first, I think, attempt at commercializing this insight was a study that a bunch of Korean researchers did in 2011, I think, because this is how we came across it. There's a bunch of Korean researchers who oxygenated soju, so rice wine, which is really popular in Korea. They oxygenated rice wine, and they got a bunch of people drunk off of oxygenated rice wine, and they charted their recovery. Their livers returned to kind of normal and processing the toxins and getting the BAC down. So they charted their recovery against a group that they got drunk off of just regular soju. And the premise was, okay, we know ingested oxygen helps the liver effectively do its job faster. Will it clear alcohol out of the blood quicker? And so it turns out it did. The group that got drunk off the oxygenated soju recovered
How
about 25%
is this
faster.
not talked about more? Because if you Google best cure for a hangover, you'll read 75 different articles, and every one of them is basically at the end going, but we don't really know. Like no one really knows. There's a couple things that I've learned about health. No one really knows what DOMS is, and nobody really knows. There are really good theories about hangovers, but they're not sure. And there's really everybody's got their, you talk to somebody and they're like, as soon as I go to sleep, I drink 2 glasses of water and I take 2 Tylenol and I wake up and I eat the greasy, whatever it might be. And this is what, but nobody's got like.
I think there's arguably not a great single solution to that problem, everybody's got their thing, and there's a reason for this and there's a reason for that, but there's no, this is how you cure a hangover. This is exactly what you do. On top of that, up until recently, there hasn't been any oxygenated products that you can go to the store or go online and buy, or at least that are legitimately oxygenated. So we're still, most people who drink O2, I'm sure, aren't drinking it because they know about what oxygen does to the liver and the body's processing of toxins, much less muscle recovery, which we'll get into, I'm sure. But they're at least kind of building the awareness. So, I actually like to see more and more people come into the category of oxygenated fluid because it's good for everybody.
Right. And so the other thing is it's got caffeine in some of the one we have here is not
caffeine.
But let's go to like before the CBD ones. We'll talk about the ones, the originals. You've got a couple that are a couple flavors that have caffeine, a couple that don't. The ones that have caffeine, I'm a very anti-caffeine person because look at how high strung I am and I don't even do it. People think I'm on cocaine. Caffeine, diuretic. When you think about hydrating, why am I going to take something that's a diuretic, but your caffeine's different?
It's not different. It's standard. Well, I suppose it is different from a lot of the other sort of energy drinks on the market today, in that our caffeine is natural caffeine. So we source ours from green coffee beans. So it's natural caffeine, which means it's absorbed into the body a lot slower and it leaves the body a lot slower. Whereas synthetic caffeine absorbed a lot faster and leaves a lot faster. So that's that spike in the crash.
Why is it synthetic?
It's made in the lab. Basically, it's a synthetic compound. And so when it comes to caffeine and being a diuretic, there was a really, really well put together study, or I think it was an article that was done in the New York Times maybe 3 or 4 years ago that studied a group of, I believe they were runners, and studied the diuretic effects on this group of runners. And what this study found was that they could hydrate just as effectively with a few cups of coffee as they could with a few cups of water. So caffeine was much, much less of a diuretic than people kind of think.
Right.
And I've found that personally too. Like I'm not the scientist on the team, so I can't really speak to the specifics, but I've certainly found that when I drink, 14 cups of coffee, sure, I'm going to pee more because I just drank 14 cups of fluid.
liquid.
Yeah, totally. But if I have an O2, it's not like I'm running to the bathroom after.
Yeah. When I ran the race, it was funny because we had O2 at the aid stations, but we had it basically I was like, save that for the end because that's a recovery drink. No, I was like, am I going to drink that during? Because in regular OT, you look and it's got really high sodium count, which is great, which is what you need when you're doing something endurance wise. I was using a product called Tailwind that everybody was telling me, take this. And some woman in a runner store who didn't even run, she's like, look, everybody comes in here and they bitch about this product. She's like, this Tailwind shit. She's like, this is the one everyone raves about. If I were you, this is what I would drink. And it ended up being great. It didn't mess up my gut or anything. But it's tons of sodium and some magnesium and some potassium. And your drink, there's a lot of sodium in it. I think
that's on purpose.
Yeah, and that helps your recovery. I mean, I was drinking a shitload. I forget what I was going through. Probably at least half a gallon every 15 miles or so. And I was pissing a lot. And I was like, should I be pissing this much? I'm sweating a lot, the sodium. And I was like, did I? And the last thing you want to get is that, what is it, hypotremia? Or
from drinking too much water.
Yeah, so I was worried about that because I've done that in marathons. But that's back when I used to drink water.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I'm getting the sodium. Am I okay? And I was fine. I didn't bonk. So whatever, it worked. I'm very happy. And I didn't get salt pills make me, I puked a couple times on salt pills, like in training. I would take them, not puke, but like dry heave. And it would just be the worst feeling. So I was doing the pills and immediately you take the pill and immediately you go to like,
oh God.
As soon as it would hit my stomach, it wouldn't happen. Stan Efferden told me, who's bodybuilder guy, really smart nutritionist. He's like, you should be taking at least 500 before and after you work out. Just like if you're doing like a bodybuilding workout, that's how much sodium you need. He's like, at least. He goes, I tell my guys that work out hard, 1,000 before, 1,000 afterwards. So I did that a bunch of times, fine. But when I would go on these runs for some reason, apparently like I read somewhere, 80% of your blood leaves your body, leaves your stomach. The blood that's in your stomach leaves to go to your legs. So your digestion is tough. So when I would take the pills, it was like, bleh. And then I went to capsules because they're like, oh, this is delayed then. So I would take it. And it was just like, I'd take it, and then all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, I'm like,
the dry heave was delayed.
And I'm like, like that didn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So, can you drink this kind of stuff like that, like while you're competing, or is it just a recovery drink?
I mean, I certainly think so. We see a lot of room in just the recovery space, just as a brand, because I think that people more and more, especially kind of our audience and your listeners, I'm sure, are paying attention to how they recover because they just can't afford to sit around all day, and they've got shit to do, and they got to be back at their best selves. So we certainly pay attention to that space. That being said, as I look at my own consumption habits, sometimes I'll have an O2 before a workout if I need a little bit of caffeine going into it.
But most people that are CrossFitters aren't doing workouts where they drink while they're doing it. It's just after.
Exactly.
I mean, but I was on an endurance thing that you had to drink. But it's just like you're getting done. You need something to recover, and it's like you might need some protein, but again, the sodium is
huge. It's huge.
Deal.
It's big. And every nutritionist I've had in here, it's so funny because salt was vilified for so long.
Yeah.
And now every single, especially as people are going keto.
Oh man, salt's such a huge
salt
deal.
is so
it's
important.
A huge deal.
And
it's the reason you get keto flu is not enough electrolytes.
Yeah. And it's
and now now that they're learning more and more about salt, they look at the old studies and they're like, oh wait, there's a curve. So it's like, yes, if you eat too much salt, you have like morbidity rates at X.
Yeah.
But also the same morbidity rates
Mhm.
exist for people who eat too little salt.
Yeah.
And so like no one's paying attention to that side of the curve.
And it's
Mhm.
also, it's like, listening to Chris Kresser talk, those people that they're studying that eat too much salt, they're also, it's an epidemiological study. They're not,
Yeah.
we're not
Where
looking at
they're
their
getting for
lifestyle.
this-
What's,
Yeah,
what's the
100%.
rest of their
Right,
lifestyle?
right.
They eat McDonald's all day
Exactly,
long. They sit at
exactly.
home. They watch TV. They never get off the couch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So show me someone that works out all the time, eats salt,
Mm-hmm.
heavy salt, and you're not going to show me problems.
Yeah.
It's tough because as this salt comes into play so much, where everybody's starting to talk about it, you've got people with high blood pressure
Mm-hmm.
and people with, heart problems, and you're like, should I recommend they
Mhm.
eat salt? I
Mhm.
don't know.
Mhm.
Like I've had my mom and dad both are in their 80s, and it's like, I don't want to say it, but I don't want to, like my mom was having hydration issues,
Yeah.
and it was like, she ended up getting doctor gave her, did like a filling in her tooth or something, and gave her, oh no, he did a crown, and he gave her an antibiotic, and she's allergic to antibiotics. She's in her 80s.
Oh God.
And it just was disastrous.
I'm
I mean,
sure.
emergency room type thing,
Mhm.
where we thought we were going to lose my mom.
Oh man.
And so it was just a matter of them getting her on IVs and getting fluid back into her. And then it took a while for her to recover. And I was like, well, doctors didn't really, I can't believe how many doctors prescribe Gatorade.
Mm-hmm,
And you're like, oh, so you just want me
I know.
to drink tons of sugar?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I know.
Well, I think it's an availability issue. I mean, every doctor who paid attention in med school knows that Gatorade is not good.
Yeah.
For vast majority of people do not need that
I can't
much sugar.
tell you how many doctors have even
I
prescribed
know,
it to me.
but it's like, what else do they know that's available that has a good amount of electrolytes? And for a while, there just hasn't been that
Yeah.
many things on the market that outside of Gatorade and what's the other one, Powerade.
Yeah.
It's like, what else is there? And so the reason that we actually have 2 times more electrolytes in O2 than Gatorade,
Right.
and we have 1/16 of the sugar. So it's a ton of electrolytes, but it's a fraction of the
So
sugar.
you're sweetened with erythritol.
Sugars, stevia, erythritol, and
Oh, you have
fruit.
stevia in some of them too?
Yep.
I didn't know that. I like stevia. Erythritol, there's an argument that it could give you gut problems.
Yeah.
I have never had that issue.
You would have to drink something like 10 O2s
Really?
to have a little bit of GI distress.
Yeah.
And you're talking GI
Are
distress
you
as in
sure?
gas.
Is the research there to prove that? Because one time I did eat maybe like a gallon
Mm-hmm.
of Halo Top ice cream, and my stomach went berserk. But I think I was food poisoned because it was like, it wasn't GI distress. It was like
It was like
it was
distress.
like
distress.
it was like
Bowel
there was a
distress.
nuclear
Yeah.
war.
Oh,
My stomach was like Fukushima.
Oh, man.
It was 3 weeks of like
Oh.
I had a
Oh,
parasite
damn.
or a fungus or I'd go to the doctor and the doctor's like, yeah, we don't know.
The only people we've done some reading on this pretty recently. The only people that tend to have issues with erythritol also have issues with like FODMAPs in general, or like nightshades.
Okay.
And so like if you have an issue with nightshades, if you're on like an autoimmune diet already, you might be predisposed to being challenged with erythritols, but that's because you're challenged with any kind of like fermentation in your gut
Yeah,
already.
Yeah.
So erythritol is a sugar alcohol. Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Yep. It's a byproduct of fermentation.
So explain how that works.
So the reason that we like erythritol a lot actually is it's part of the sweetening system with O2, but it doesn't spike insulin whatsoever.
Not at all.
Not at all.
That's
Not whatsoever.
amazing.
And the carb to calorie ratio is much different with erythritol than it is with, say, sugar, for example. So with traditionally with is it 1 calorie is 4 grams, or is it the opposite? So
Yeah.
1 calorie or 1 gram of sugar, I think, is 4 calories.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
With erythritol, it's something like I can't remember the exact math, but it's much. It's a fraction of the caloric input,
Load. Yeah.
caloric load
Yeah.
of erythritol. So 1 gram of erythritol,
So
I
I
think
can-
is 0.2
I
calories.
can honestly say, and I'm not just like doing this to kiss your ass or anything. Gatorade tastes great. Like it's
Yeah, sure.
delicious.
Oh yeah.
This tastes just as good as Gatorade. I mean, I don't think you might notice your first time drinking it like this is a little different, But I think after you have like 2 or 3, you might even go, taste test wise, you might even go for this. Like you might go,
Oh, I think so.
I like this one better. It just tastes great. And it makes me go, why the fuck are we still using sugar?
Right, right,
If there are these alternatives
right,
that do not spike your insulin,
right.
insulin sensitivity, it's causing all of the problems.
Yeah.
Like when I watch healthcare debates on TV and they're talking about trying to lower healthcare costs and blah, 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 and we're going to do this and the doctors this and the insurance companies this and the medical providers. And I'm like, just fucking stop the sugar and this will stop. And why can't, the focus is on the wrong, like.
Yeah. There's really, really strong alternatives out there now.
So many.
And there's stevia, there's erythritol, there's monk fruit.
Monk fruit's great too.
Monk fruit's great, yeah. And so there's just a bunch of options that I don't think existed, way back when, but now they exist. So there's really no reason to have a ton of sugar in almost anything, I think.
And it's great because you basically created your drink for intelligent people because it's clear as it should be and doesn't have any dye in it like all these other ones that go, well, people are dumb and they want a strawberry flavored drink, so we need to make it.
Right.
I want the purple one.
Dude, you're drinking this out of a can. You're not even going to see
to
the liquid,
me,
right?
I see a colored drink. I'm like,
there's something in there for sure.
Like that just looks terrifying. And why would you want to put anything in you that? And I hope as a society and a culture we can just get more and more educated and realize this shit's so fucking bad for you.
I think it's happening. I mean, I think CrossFit has certainly done a lot to kind of raise the discussion around how toxic sugar can be. And we were just at a beverage conference.
By the way, I'm addicted to sugar. So
fantastic! Great. That's really great for you.
I'm a junkie. I try to eat healthy all the time, and then in the middle of the night, I'll be like, I know there's sugar in this house.
Well, I bought a 4-pack of Lily's. You've had Lily's, I'm sure. So Lily's is
the peanut butter cups.
Yeah,
dude, they're great,
delicious. They're fantastic.
Are they erythritol or stevia?
They're stevia and erythritol.
Okay, yeah.
But it's great, and it's like a fraction of the sugar that Reese has.
Have you had a perfect keto bars? I'm obsessed with perfect keto bars. It's like freaking chocolate cookie.
There was and I know we have a lot of Australian listeners. Somebody please call me and tell me. I stopped at like a roadside, like whatever their equivalent of 7-Eleven, and I got a keto donut that I think was erythritol.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to taste like shit.
Right.
It's a donut.
Sure.
And it was
amazing,
gluten-free. So it was like made with like almond meal. And it was at a 7-Eleven. So I'm like, there's no fucking way. And I ate this thing and I was like, all right, we need to invest in this company. We need to figure out how we can get in bed with these people. Because this donut. So my wife was like out doing something the next day. She comes home, she opens the refrigerator and there's like 200 of the donuts in there. And I'm like, listen,
trust me,
don't eat any of my donuts.
These taste horrible.
I was like, they were so good. I tried like every single flavor. And if anyone knows who that is, because I forgot and I'll never be able to get them here anyways. There's a candy I love in Australia called chocolate bullets, which are licorice covered in dark chocolate, like kind of like a Mike and Ike, but like better licorice, better chocolate. And I try to get them here, and Amazon wants like $30 for shipping for a tiny bag of candy. And so whenever anyone goes to Australia, I'm like, you fill
up a suitcase.
You fill
Here's
your
a suitcase.
And you can even get it duty free on the way out. You get Dara Lee's chocolate bullets, and you bring them back to me. But that's how I felt about these chocolate donuts. But your stuff's great. It tastes great.
Thanks.
And like I said, everything from I was just talking to a company about this recently that we're working with, and a lot of this stuff is we're selling an intangible. You don't really know. You can't. I mean, you can look at the studies, but when people go, "Oh, I feel much better," do you? Do you really know if you feel better? Like some things you do, but I'm taking curcumin now for inflammation, and my knees are wrecked since the run.
I'll bet, I'm sure.
I have runner's knee in both knees, so. Do I feel? Sometimes I think I do. Sometimes I don't know. Is it placebo? Is it? But I'm gonna believe studies. So if you've got the papers behind it and it goes, hey, this shit works, guaranteed when I get too fucked up over Christmas,
Right.
I am drinking O2 the next
100%,
day. In fact, I'll
100%.
drink it right after. I hate hangovers. I hate feeling shitty.
Dude, get some of that caffeine free before you go to bed. I'm telling you.
You know what? I'm not a caffeine person anymore, and I've even drank a little bit of your caffeine because I know the whole natural caffeine and how it gets into your system. So, but it's just, I think I ran out of the regular one and I had the caffeine one. I'm like, fuck it.
Well, it's funny. We don't talk about O2 in the context of hangovers, but our audience, like, they'll put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly. It's like, oh, I just drink this.
I mean, I would obviously
science.
think, you think Gatorade, so it's like, okay, well, why? I don't want to put the sugar in.
Yep, exactly.
So,
and most of when we were first doing the formulation, I like to think that O2 tastes really good. We took our time with that product. Like, I was not going to step away from my pretty lucrative job to go and, do something that wasn't really truly as best as it possibly could be, And so when we were first starting out and in the research phase, that study that I mentioned earlier, the Korean one with the soju, most of the studies were done with alcohol and clearing the liver of those toxins.
Alcohol is going in.
Yeah. Either while or after.
Have they done? So they've done studies after also.
They have, yes. And so the insight that was pretty well established and still is very well established within the medical community was ingested oxygen will help your liver process toxins faster. Since we launched O2, I remember midway through our first year, we kept on hearing back from people, man, if I drink O2, after I work out, I just feel less sore the next day. Like, I'm surprised on how less sore I feel. And Dan are like, why would that be happening? Like, it's probably not the electrolytes. Maybe it could be. It's probably not the caffeine. Well, maybe it could be. But, we just couldn't really wrap our heads around why would this be, effectively alleviating soreness the next day. And then in 2014, a study came out that was done with a bunch of, again, runners that showed ingested oxygen actually alleviates muscle soreness. And so that was after we launched our product. So we weren't really looking at muscle soreness as a thing with ingested oxygen. We were just looking at the toxic component, right? But since then, there's been a few other published peer-reviewed studies that have shown that same insight. So not only is it great for hangovers, but, and I can speak to this myself too, I do personally notice I just feel less sore the next day.
So what do you do? Do you do one can?
A day?
No, one can after a workout?
Yeah, that's what I tend to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably have 2 or 3 cans a day.
Okay.
But I got my own stash, high on my own supply. But that tends to be what most people do too. So if they're doing a morning workout, they'll have a caffeine flavor after the workout and just get on with their day. If they're doing an evening workout, like I usually work out in the evenings, I'm going to do caffeine free. Again, I tend to do it after the workout, sometimes before.
Right.
But a lot of people drink it as a replacement to their Monster or whatever.
So when you say the liver and the toxins are removed from the liver, there's a lot of people that this could work for. I mean, there's people that have to take medications that are going through their liver. There's people that, I don't understand the process. One time I had an expert on the show, and we were talking all about flushing, the bad toxins out of your body through your lymphatic system. And I said to him, where does it go? Like, how does stuff leave your lymphatic system? And he was like couldn't answer me. And I was like, shouldn't you know this? And then I went and Googled it, and I was amazed by a lot of it's in respiration. In your carbon dioxide.
Most of it, yeah.
And I was like, oh, so we're just basically like just fucking ugly shit's coming out. And talk about bad breath.
Right.
And then I Googled one time, what happens if you don't let your farts out? What happens if you hold your farts in? Guess where they come out? Your fucking breath.
Of course.
How fucked up is that?
Yeah. Holy jeez.
Like, that's like your really fart breath.
So halitosis is just.
So I told my wife,
I was like, hey, I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I'm like, would you rather have it coming out here or out?
Where do you want it?
Because it's coming one of them. Did you know that, Chris? Did you know that's where your farts come out if you hold them in?
Good thing I don't hold them in.
So, what if you know it? The toxins that are going on in your liver. What exactly is going on? Is this? I know all about. Everybody wants to take something like an EPO or any way to get the red blood cells going and oxygenate your blood cells. Wim Hof. You do the breathing. It's going to oxygenate you. Is this similar to that?
I'm going to punt that question to Dan Kim, the physician on the team,
Yeah.
dan@drinko2.com, if anyone would like to
Yeah.
send him an email. I mean, where we tend to focus, because the oxygen conversation, that's a big conversation to have too. You know, where we tend to focus is O2 is very clean. It's made with clean ingredients. There are 10 of them, not 30.
What are they? Oh, this is not the kid.
So that's our new CBD line. So I guess that's the 11th ingredient. But it's a product that is meticulously put together with a combination of hydration and in some cases energy and certainly high oxygen to help people bounce back faster after workout. When it comes to the mechanicals of how that works in the liver, there's a lot of anatomy that goes in there.
Yeah,
you know?
you can
And frankly,
answer that,
I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one, right? But what I can say is that we, thankfully, we weren't the ones to come up with this oxygen insight. That was pretty well established. We were certainly the ones to actually do something with it and commercialize it. Nobody, when we first came across this, we're like, oh shit. Like I used to work in corporate strategy. So I'm like, this could be our point of difference. This could be our thing. We need something to hang our hats on, right? The reason that there wasn't another oxygenated product on the market is because, like I said earlier, it's really, really fucking hard to make an oxygenated product at scale.
So your margins, you're not making as much as someone that's making an easier drink to make.
It's really, really challenging and costly to make a high quality product.
What about your water that you're oxygenating? Are you using
reverse osmosis filtered water?
Okay.
Yep. It's RO water.
Tears of small children.
And tears, yeah. Thank you. Sometimes kittens.
We pay them a fair wage.
That's why you have the
That's
Vietnamese
right.
guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Importing from Vietnam.
Yeah, just why work for Nike when you can work for O2?
Like we didn't do enough damage to Vietnam. We got to go over there and take their tears. Okay, couple things I want to get into. One, how the fuck do you get this out there that you're going to be in the space with, you're fighting with companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi that have $10 gazillion marketing campaigns, and it's like I see this in a Whole Foods or an Air One type place, and I know it's hard to get into those.
It's fucking grind, man. I mean, we were very, very fortunate to start off with very, very few resources.
Yeah.
And so we were largely a bootstrapped company for the first 4 years of our existence, which meant day one, Dan the doctor never left his day job. So it was all me doing everything, And so after I left my day job is when I started coaching to just kind of make ends meet. So first I started coaching. Yeah. So first it was Krav Maga. Started coaching that, and then
punch him in the throat. Show me how you do it.
Well, it depends on how the rest of this interview goes. Maybe it's you. But first it was Krav, and then that's what led me into CrossFit to sort of supplement that training. And then I started coaching CrossFit, and then about a year later is when the business launched. So by the time
which CrossFit did you coach? What's it called?
CrossFit, the gym, Buckeye CrossFit in Columbus is where I got my start. And so by the time the business launched, I just happened to have a bunch of buddies who I trained with who opened up CrossFit gyms and initially did me a favor. I was like, I'll sell your drink, because I just needed somebody to buy it. I just produced 50 pallets of this product that nobody had ever heard of, and I was the single guy responsible for selling this product. And so they did me a favor, they put it in the gyms, and it turns out it did really, really well. And so one gym became two became four, so on and so forth. And so what I found was, I was just one guy, and I was also a delivery guy, and I found that it would take me just as much time to drive to our warehouse and pick up 10 cases of O2 and drop it off at CrossFit Endeavor as it would drive to our warehouse, pick up 2 cases of O2 and drop it off at like a convenience store. And so both of those retailers would sell through that order in about 3 weeks. And so the return on my time, 100%. Yep. So, all right, just focus on CrossFit.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's, in terms of our go-to-market, there aren't that many companies, certainly not Coke, certainly not Pepsi, that are focused on that sort of alternative channel. Right. Well, that's the bulk of our business, and we love that business.
Right.
Because the consumption is so high, our target market's right there inside of these gyms. We know where to find them. And oh, by the way, when we flip on Whole Foods, or we flip on Kroger, or we flip on Air One, they're shopping at these places too. So they discover the brand inside their gyms, and they buy it after they work out in singles, and then they'll load up at Kroger or whatever. But the consumption everywhere increases. So it's a really, really strong model for us that, frankly, the big players have no idea how to replicate.
So are you guys doing well enough that you'll be like sponsoring an event soon or something where it can, even get more well known?
I'll punt that to our VP of marketing.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, right? The goal
Yeah.
is to figure out ways to get our brand out there and tell more people about it and drive the awareness. The challenge is finding the right event,
for sure.
right?
Right.
Making sure it makes sense for us to do that because again, we're still a small brand, still
Right.
limited resources. So how do you pick the right event and does it make sense?
Yeah, because you also don't know these events right now. You don't know
Totally.
if any of them are getting the publicity or
Totally.
getting any of the exposure and what exposure you're going to get being there.
Exactly.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
if you were in
Are
this last CrossFit Games,
We were, and it was okay. It was
It
okay.
was?
I mean, it was okay. It wasn't as good as the one before.
sure, but the views were pretty good on, say, Morning Chalk Up or Rogue. They had pretty high hits, but it's like, how much awareness are they getting of you?
Yeah, definitely,
Whereas when
100%.
CrossFit was doing it, they're hitting all their sponsors.
100%, for
They're
sure.
making sure.
Yeah.
And this was CrossFit was like,
Yep,
hands off.
yep.
Good luck.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
if you want to sponsor this shit, they're making the money.
Right,
We're
yeah,
not
for
making
sure.
it, so we're not covering you.
Yeah.
What's most important to us in terms of, kind of marketing dollars or activation or sponsorships or whatever, is that we get the product at least, whether it's in small cups or full cans, past people's lips. Because once most people, not everybody, but most people who try O2 tend to really, really like it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we're focused on in 2020 is we'll do events, but there's got to be a place close by that they can buy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just we found out earlier.
I mean, that's my issue.
Yeah, where do you get it?
drink it because I get it from you.
right.
But then when I go into the store,
Yeah.
I want one.
Which is
Right.
we're just not really focused on the West Coast because
Yeah.
we don't have a ton of retailers out here.
Yeah.
Right?
And I go into Whole Foods and I'm like, there's 7,000 things to drink. And
Yeah.
I'm like, none of these are what I need right now.
Right. Yeah. And so, if we sponsor a sanctional out on the West Coast, then it's like, well, now all these
better.
people like, where do I go buy it?
Right.
And you try and tell them, and you want to tell them, hey, you should come online, buy it at drinko2.com. But how often are you buying beverages online?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
hard to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give us a little plug
Can
here.
people buy through Amazon?
Yeah,
They can. They
Oh,
can buy
that's
through
great.
Amazon.
Yep.
They can buy through drinko2.com.
And soon out here, Sprouts, because we're going nationwide with Sprouts.
Oh, that's
all,
awesome.
All SKUs.
Yeah, that's
And so
awesome.
that'll
Whole
happen
Foods
in a
is
couple
really
months.
hard to get into, isn't it? It's a process.
It's a process for sure. Whole Foods is fantastic. They're one of two or one of three now major retailers that we work with because we tend to be pretty selective, and retailers are pretty selective too. But Whole Foods moves a ton of product. Everybody knows Whole Foods. Everybody loves Whole Foods, and people spend money at Whole Foods. Whole Foods does have a process for sure. And since the acquisition by Amazon, that process got a little bit more confusing. And so I think you'll see us out here. It's probably not going to be, Q1, Q2 of 2020, but hopefully soon in Whole Foods and Sprouts and others.
Oh, that's awesome because I just want it always accessible.
Do what I can, man. I'm working on it.
I love it so much. All right, let's get into. I really want to talk about this because this could be like a 12-hour show on its own. So you've got a new drink, which is a hemp CBD drink, and my take on CBD, I'll tell you my little thing on it. I have had 1 million people come to us to try to work with us on CBD, and I read a lot of the literature, trying to figure out where it stands, how it works. Some of, I hear different stories about, especially when it comes to the oils, the creams, the taking it, the smoking it, the whatever it is. And it just seems like a multi gazillion dollar business. I just surfed with a guy who was telling me about a buddy, like a real close friend of mine was telling me about another friend who has this patent on this kind of CBD and all about the micro, whatever it is.
Encapsulation, micro encapsulation.
And the proof is there and this and that. I don't know. All I know is I did Getting Dug with High, and that's a TV or it's a YouTube show, and you smoke weed on it. You just podcast but you just get high as fuck. And I've done it a bunch of times, and I freak out a lot because weed and I get paranoid. It's just not that great for me.
Yeah,
it's okay. I can just a little bit of it once in a while. So you start out, you smoke. Doug looks at you a couple minutes in. He goes, "How you feeling?" And he looks at me and he goes, "How you feeling?" And I realized I'm not high, and the viewers love it when you get fucking baked and you're an idiot.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to smoke more. And I was like, then I might pass that point. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel very high. And I go, I just feel really relaxed right now. And Doug goes, that's because I gave you CBD. And he goes, I had you smoke CBD first so that you'd be calm.
Like vaping it?
He just smoked it just like a...
Oh, okay.
And I went, oh. And I was like, well, he goes, I wanted you to relax so you wouldn't have a panic attack or anything when we
Smart man.
started. And I was like, wow, that really
I feel good.
fucking worked. Like, I didn't have any of like the high feeling
Yeah.
or that I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I just felt calmer than I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I might try this
Yeah.
more than, you know, like
Right.
a buddy long time ago, a friend of mine, Jamie Sterling, who's been on the show. He's a big wave surfer, like a famous big wave surfer. He said to me, those guys fly on like, they get a phone call that says you need to be in Portugal in
Like tomorrow.
12 hours, you know, like the contest is going. And so I go, how do you get on those long haul flights and not freak out? And this is years and years ago. He goes, CBD, dude.
No
and I was
shit.
like, what? He's like, CBD. And I went,
What's CBD?
what? And he goes, it's like marijuana, but it's not marijuana. And I was like, I'm not getting high. That'll
Yeah,
freak
yeah,
me. He's
yeah.
like, no, dude, it's just relaxing. He's like, take some CBD. And now he has his own line of CBD, but as does everyone else.
Everybody.
I mean, it just seems like it's
Yeah.
this product, and I just talked forever, which I didn't want to, about it's just becoming like
So it's everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And why is that? I
Well-
mean, because you obviously got into the space, you saw something
Yep.
that,
Yep. It's funny. We were at a beverage conference a few hours ago, and one of the panelists is the owner of one of the major CBD drinks out there, and he's like, you know, CBD is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it, but at the same time, it's not everywhere. It's really hard to buy at least an ingestible. Like, where do you go? You're not going to buy it at Whole Foods. You're not going to buy it at Kroger or Sprouts. Those guys aren't taking it. So figuratively, it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about it, but you know, in terms of availability, it's not that many places.
well, my father-in-law, his business, they tried to get into it, and he's like, oh my God, the legal issues with
there's
getting
dude,
into this.
that could be a 12-hour conversation.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. I think, just my uneducated opinion, is CBD is something that's very, very powerful. And for me personally, it's been very, very powerful. And so I can only sample size of one here, but for me, it's had a huge, huge benefit in terms of just pain management, recovery for sure. And so O2 plus CBD came into discussion and ultimately existence because turns out a lot of our athletes and a lot of our fans are using CBD for those same reasons: pain management, workout management.
So anti-inflammatory.
100%. Yeah, totally. And I think it works really, really well. One of the reasons why I think it's so talked about too is because, you know, with the hemp legalization bill from last year, the availability has become a little bit more. So while it's talked about a lot, not everywhere, you can still find it some places. You can buy it legally some places. And people are experiencing the effects of something that they've never had access to in the past, or at least not in a remotely legal way. And those are some really, really powerful effects. Will we see that change in the future? I don't think so. I think the CBD cat's out of the bag. You know, CBD is something that a lot of people are going to use, I think even more so in the future. But we're looking at the regulatory environment and waiting desperately for that to change, because in an environment where there's just a lack of regulatory clarity, there's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of products that are CBD products that are not good products.
Right,
you know?
right.
That
That's
don't
what I was
contain
worried
anywhere
about.
near the amount of CBD that they say
100%.
they do, or
or
they're
they've got
making
metals included with it. It's just
or
not
false
good stuff.
claims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because there's no regulatory, there's nobody really truly regulating this in a good way. You're getting a lot of that because they can kind of get away with it, you know? And so, you know, my concern more so than the logistics of banking and everything else is, are these idiots who are out there with these shitty products going to strip away the legitimacy of CBD?
I don't think so, because you can look at that with beef. You can look at that with water. You can look at that with anything
Yeah,
else.
totally.
And it's just
That's
like
true.
you're going to find your good CBD products and your bad CBD. And you
Yep,
have to
100%.
you have to educate yourself to find out which one's good for you and which one's not. And it's always sad. You know, I saw that with fish oil forever. Everybody's like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
taking
that's a
fish
good
oil.
example.
Where'd you
Yep,
get? I
yep.
went to Costco. It was $4. And I'm
Right.
like, you're not taking
Yeah,
fish oil.
exactly.
You're not taking fish oil.
Exactly.
There's no DHA, no EPA in it. You're wasting your money.
Yep.
And and I think, you know, people need to do that with these, where they go, all right, I've got to do my research and I've got to find one, you know, and basically, because what I was hearing was all hearsay. I would hear people say, well, if it doesn't have THC, there's no, you know, there's no benefits from it, or if it's not this or it's not that. And I was like, holy shit, I can't listen to all these people. And I hate, you know, hearsay. And I was like, it looks like I'm going to have to go down that wormhole and get into this and figure it out and try to find. Now I know, you guys, I guess, do you consider yourself a health food company? Because
certainly health and wellness for sure.
Yeah. So I know, and that's the good thing about CrossFitters. For the most part, 90% of CrossFitters are out there looking for, there's a few that are performance-based that don't give a fuck and will inject steroids into themselves. But for the most part, it's people looking for like an elite level of fitness and health. So they want the best product.
Right.
Exactly.
They want the
It's
thing.
a very discriminating audience.
The worst, the most elite
We get
assholes in the world.
Weirdest questions, and we love it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it just means that they're freaking obsessed.
Yeah, they're
about
nerding
their
out.
health.
Yep.
And we love that.
That is a great thing, because that's what created CrossFit, was the forums, where there was this cross-pollination of ideas, where a guy would go, hey, look, I'm doing thrusters. It's great for your quads and your shoulders. And then somebody go, yeah, but you're doing it wrong because you're not push pressing at the top and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then everybody just started going, this guy's the best running coach. No, this guy's better. This guy's better. No, this guy's better. So all of a sudden everybody's like, now we're at the best. It really did this like deduction, or a process of deduction, where it was like, push this to the side, push this to the side. Let's find all the best shit. And I was frustrated again listening to back to James Wilkes. I know he's a combative instructor, but I never wanted to fight somebody so badly. And he was even if I was on the side of the whole plant, he was just, I hate to say this, he was just being a dick. And the way he kind of manipulated Chris Kresser, I don't know if you guys have heard the interview. He was a bully.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fair. He never let him finish. And he kept putting words in his mouth. Admit you're wrong. Admit you're wrong.
Yeah.
And it was how a shitty lawyer wins in court.
Yeah.
And I just watched him do that. When I was like, this is a horrible debate, because we all know plants are great for you. We all know that.
Yeah.
And Chris Kresser kept saying, that's how your diet should be made up of, a majority of that. And then add meat. Show me where meat's bad. And he kept going back to, well, the meat you eat, Joe, is great. You eat elk. And it was like, well, wait a minute. You made a whole documentary about how meat's bad, but you're saying kangaroo's good, elk's good. Are you going to say bison's good? What? It was a horrible, horrible, horrible debate. I keep going off. I know I should stop talking about it. I'm absolutely obsessed. I started talking about it with my wife. She's like, you got to stop. You got to. And it's not like I'm this like meat's the greatest. If you could show me somewhere that a diet of a plant-based diet is much better for you, I'd be like, oh, guess I'm going to have to try to stop. I just think that eating fish and eating grass-fed beef. And so going back to what I was trying to say, show me a study of people that eat like that, and you're going to show me really healthy people.
Right.
Like you can't. James Wilkes kept showing us people eating the standard American diet, the studies going. And when it comes to this stuff, there's always going to be, people using bad CBD or people using, and so explain to me, because the biggest benefit is going to be anti-inflammatory.
So I think the three most common benefits people talk about for CBD, and that science, there's a lot of research around it, is pain management. So that includes anti-inflammation, anxiety and stress, so like calm, and then sleep, right? And so when we talk about being a recovery brand, a recovery focused brand, like what three things arguably do you need most,
100%.
right? Like and that we're challenged with all the time, being what we call like super high intensity people who love high intensity training, but guess what? We also love high intensity
Everything.
work. We also love high intensity relationships. Like we're high intensity junkies.
Redlining.
Yeah, exactly. And so we talk about how do you kind of support a lifestyle that is gonna help you battle that, and it's through your diet, it's through better sleep. And so Dave saw a benefit to managing a back injury he went through, and then me with a toddler, I found CBD is a really something that really helped me with sleep. So
it's funny how, as those redlining individuals, we're now redlining recovery.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're
all in.
We're like, I'm going to be the most intense sleeper ever.
Totally.
I'm sleeping way better than you.
Totally.
A guy I have on the show, like Crazy Bobby, we shared a hotel room at the CrossFit Games. And Bobby has been doing everything that CrossFitters do for the last 30 years. He knew all this shit before anybody knew it. He was always
Walking
on
around in
this.
compression tights.
No, he'll tell you like why you should. He walks around with no shoes all the time and does his grounding. He's always been everything he does now. I watch everyone doing. Bobby's like, how long
Been
ago
there,
did I
done
tell
that,
you
yeah.
about that? So, and Bobby, by the way, if you saw, he was with me. I had him drinking
Yeah.
and he's like, I love this
Nice.
stuff. But we went back to the hotel after the games one night and we're sharing a hotel room and it took him 20 minutes to get the room ready. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He closed all the blinds. He put shirts up where all the cracks were so that no light could emit through. He unplugged the clocks and the TV so that the light's coming from him. He put something under the door. I'm like, I can't see my hands. I'm like, I'm gonna get up in the middle of the night. I'm gonna break a bone. And he's like, no, man, you're gonna sleep for 12 hours. I'm like, I don't need to sleep 12 hours. And he's like, yeah, you do. It's great. He's like, we're gonna sleep. He kept doing it. It was like,
that's great.
It was like I thought I was like in a gay lover experience. He's like, we're gonna sleep so good, you and I. He's like, we're gonna sleep for 12 hours. And I did get like the best night of sleep of my life. And he's all about that. And he's 57 and he looks like he's 30 because he's always been managing his stress, managing his sleep. He's always found it very important. He's all about what kind of water he uses even for showering, what he puts on his body. And he's a really, really smart guy about it. So I do get that. And I do think there is this space for that. CBD might be the answer for me. I have been hesitant of it though, because of some of the research I've read, and also because of a little bit of fear in the, like, I know CBD has no psychotropic or psychoactive effect. But then when I smoked it that time, it was like it's a weird explanation. It was so calming. I guess it was kind of like taking a Vicodin. Or not a Vicodin. What's the one, the anti-anxiety one? Xanax.
Oh, Xanax, yeah.
It was kind of like taking a Xanax.
Yeah.
And I would say that was the equivalent.
Yeah.
But not as sleepy. And I was like, wow, I'm amazed that they're allowed, that this is legal.
Well, it's funny. We were talking to somebody the other day who's very, very entrenched in the CBD space, and he's arguably a leading expert in this space. And we were talking about that same subject around, how CBD doesn't have any psychoactive effects. And the discussion that we had was, well, by psychoactive, when people say that, what they mean is it doesn't get you high. Like you're not gonna get stoned, and you're not gonna feel stoned after you have CBD. But it's not truly not psychoactive, because if something mellows you out a little bit,
right,
that's a psychoactive effect.
Sure.
Now CBD does not get you high, but it does alter your mood state a little bit, I think.
And what's more important is like the mechanism of which it does that, right? Through your cannabinoid receptors and things like that. And so, it's the how and the why that I think is more important.
So let me ask you this. So I drink this, I get a little bit of a relaxed state. How come I'm allowed to go drive a car now?
I mean, you're not getting that relaxed.
Right.
First of all, second of all, I think that's a great question. That's something that I would love to see some regulatory framework in place for, because we have 10 milligrams of broad spectrum hemp CBD in our product, which is not a lot. I mean, we designed it to be very, very accessible to people. There's not a ton of studies that have been done on dosing CBD, because it's just been really hard to fund and do those studies because of the lack of regulation. And so what we're looking for is, well, how would you answer a question like that? Like, if I take 100 milligrams of CBD, is that too much? If I take 500 milligrams, 1,000, what's going to happen to me then? Like, there could be a brand out there that's making a drink with 1,000 milligrams of CBD. I can tell you that you can have an O2 plus without any worry about your driving. Right. But if you had 100 of them, I don't know if I can answer that question. So we'd love more.
Non-alcoholic beer has beer in it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And so, in your experience, what would you feel? Would you feel a relaxed effect? You feel like you got the response, you got the anti-inflammatory, the pain relief.
Well, like you were saying earlier, it's hard to see, it's
'Cause
hard to
when
see
I
an
smoked
immediate
it,
effect.
I felt an immediate effect.
I think you definitely feel it in that
I
capacity.
felt like I had 2 strong drinks
Mm-hmm.
without I didn't lose my motor skills.
Mm-hmm.
I felt just calm, like a calmness that I don't ever get
Just
to.
better.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's.
what,
go
and
ahead.
I would say it was what we've heard and what we've seen from
Yeah.
people who take CBD regularly
Mhm.
is that it, like anything, it's incredibly individual.
Mhm.
So what
100%.
impacts one person at
Totally.
10 milligrams could impact someone
Totally.
else at like
Totally.
40 or 50. And then it obviously just depends on like, what kind of stress are you under for that in that
Mhm.
specific time
Yep.
period. Even for you, it could change and vary.
Totally.
So, which is exactly
What if it
why-
had like a reverse effect, where like
Just
I
really
drink
amped you
this,
up?
yeah, and then the next thing you know, I'm running naked down the 405, like woo, fucking CBD.
It's probably not a high quality CBD that you took. I can say for me personally, again, subject, not a subject matter expertise by any means, sample size of 1. I tend to personally use CBD more in the mornings than in the evenings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I fucking sleep like a rock, man.
Oh,
Like,
you do?
yeah,
Oh,
I
you do?
wipe out because I tend to be running at a pretty high pace through the day, and so by the time my head hits the pillow, I'm asleep. But the flip side of that is I'm amped up a lot, and it's a very high energy, very high demand job as an entrepreneur. And so I'm sure you guys can speak to that. I'm sure 90% of your audience can too. And so for me, I want to be at my best state most of that day. And so I'll wake up, I'll have my coffee, and 9 times out of 10, I'll have some CBD with my coffee, or at least before noon, so I can enter the day in kind of a more steady state, more focused state. I don't know what most people do. It's something
I'm
that
the
there's
opposite.
still.
I am too.
Yeah.
I need to. It's so hard for me to wind down to go to sleep.
Same.
And my thing, I play a lot of chess at night online, and that just I've actually been watching
Got to get away from
my
that screen
heart
time, man.
rate.
Mm.
And my heart rate is spiking while I'm playing
Oh,
chess.
believe it, yeah.
'Cause I play timed games.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
like,
intense.
what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, totally.
Like, I'm making it so much
Right,
worse.
100%.
And I'm like, why am I going to bed at like 4 a.m. now?
That's-
And then I got to get up at 8. And I got to reading is the best thing. If I
For
get
sure.
rid of the computer, open a book.
Yeah.
But this seems like it's something that I could add to because I've done chamomile tea. I do magnesium a lot. Magnesium, I think, from my experience in talking to all the nutritionists, is the one thing that we're none of us are getting enough of.
Yeah.
And I don't see any of the drinks really
Yeah.
helping that out.
Yep. I would agree with that.
So it's like, it's the only, I am using curcumin now, but I use magnesium a lot. Like I use
do too.
Calm or
Yep.
something.
Yeah.
And that, I'll use that as a wind down. But again, it's hard. These things, a lot of times, for everyone else, fine. For me, it's traveling.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
other people, fine.
Yeah.
You can have your
Yeah.
supplements and I got to travel with all this
Right,
shit.
right, totally.
I can't
Right. Yeah.
take a whole suitcase full of O2 with me. So
Challenge
I'm,
accepted.
so I'm,
Yeah.
fucked, I'm fucked this week in Alaska. I'm going to Alaska tomorrow. And
I'm not going to ship it there either.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Well, I will say when it comes to sleep, I don't have a problem winding down or getting to sleep. I do, now that we're talking about it, when I don't have, I try to get 8 hours most nights. And that's a fairly recent phenomenon that I force myself to do that. And it really fucking works. It's great.
Yeah.
But if I can't get 8 hours, then I try to augment the kind of deepness of my sleep. And so I will take CBD before I go to sleep. And what I've noticed, I wear a Whoop tracker.
Yeah.
And so I noticed
great.
when I have CBD before I sleep, I tend to be in that deep sleep state a little bit longer, anywhere between 20, 30%.
Interesting.
And I just feel
wow,
kind of
that's
I feel
a great,
better, more
That's
refreshed.
a great way to gauge it and have some metrics too, because like I said, a lot of these things you're like, is this working? I don't know. And Whoop will tell you where your sleep is when you're in your deep sleep and your SWS, is it called? Your
Yep.
was that slow wave sleep? I think
so.
it is. So that's great because I noticed I was getting good duration of sleep, but
Yeah.
I wasn't getting into deep
deepness.
sleep
Yep.
long
Yep.
enough.
Totally.
And so I would like to see that get longer. People don't understand. If you don't understand about sleep, go again. I hate referencing Joe Rogan, but he had Matthew Walker on, who's been
Yeah.
on Tim Ferriss, I think, too.
Yeah.
And that guy will convince you
book.
that you need to sleep
Have you read it?
way more. Oh, he's great. One of the things I thought was great about him, he was talking about the productivity of people who work less hours and sleep more. They're just so much more productive.
Yeah, I believe that
Then,
for sure.
and there's a lot of communities, even the medical industry, like doctors, and also Wall Street, a lot of investment bankers and lawyers, where there's this badge of honor to work long hours
sure. Yep.
and make the people, like I had a lot of friends growing up that were investment bankers, and you would watch them work like 20-hour days and sleep under their desk. And it was this, a little bit of like hazing and, you've got to earn this. And it was like, okay, but if you were a smart company,
Yeah, totally.
you would just not abuse them as much and get better work done.
Totally.
And so like, let that be a lesson for all you people out there that think you're just getting so much done. You're not.
And I think, sleep is arguably, that's the best recovery tool that there is. O2 is great, Sidekick's great, Whoop's great, because it forces you almost to sleep more, which sleep is the thing. So if I can augment my sleep a little bit to enhance my recovery so I can have a better next day, I'm definitely doing that,
I just drank this and I was like, the first sip I had, I was like, that tastes like peach and also like pear. And then I looked at it, and it's peach pear. When you say, what is it? Is it natural flavors? Explain that, because there's a lot of controversy with that.
Ours is very simple. It's from the fruits or the roots. So grapefruit ginger is a good example. That's one of our flagship flavors. It's grapefruit extract and it's ginger extract.
So what do you do? You squeeze it and you have a little bit?
I don't personally do it. That's Eric in his kitchen.
He's walking in a bucket, just squeezing it all out.
All
all 140 pounds.
How? What does the extract come from? Is it squeezed out? Is it? Because somebody told me once, like in LaCroix or LaCroix or whatever it's called. Is it LaCroix or is it LaCroix?
So it's LaCroix, isn't it? Is it LaCroix? Yeah,
it's LaCroix.
But it should be LaCroix. It should be pronounced LaCroix.
Yeah.
Right?
Anyway, somebody said, that's like natural flavors or something, but it's basically like a gas that they infuse into it so they like boil. I read a whole article about it. Now I can't remember. I read too much and don't read effectively. I get my answer like I need it, but then I can't recapitulate what I just read.
Get more sleep.
Yeah, seriously. So I think what it was is like, they'll basically boil it down, whatever the fruits or whatever, and the gas that it emits, the like essence of it, is then what they inject into the drink, and that is what gives it its flavor. So it's natural flavors, but it's done in this kind of unnatural manner. Like when you talk about processed foods, that's a process.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't really consider that non-processed, and we all like to eat as much non-processed as possible, but you can't.
Right.
You're gonna have to cut corners in a lot of places.
Yeah. Jerky is a processed food.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And you were telling me you worked at Epic.
Yeah.
No offense, it's the one jerky I can't eat.
Really?
I feel like it's too soft.
Oh yeah. Oh, we've heard that before.
It's like Epic. The consistency is like mushrooms. Instead of like jerky's like.
If you pick some of the leaner ones, they're much tougher.
Oh really?
But that's it. When I was at Epic, we heard that all the time. People were either like I'm team soft meat. I love it. It's like tender. And then there were people that were like, no, don't ever give me like a bison bar because it's too tender. I prefer a chicken sriracha that's like a little bit leaner and a little bit more tough.
Can we?
Okay, because I did the bison one, and I was just like, I ate like half of it, and I was like, bleh. And I should eat more of that shit than going. I'm always looking for protein to get, and that's like. When I'm traveling, you walk into the airport, Hudson News or wherever, and it's so hard to find.
Right.
I just don't understand it. Like we're such a protein deficient country, and we're eating just like way too much. Why can't I feel like it's changing though. I'm starting to see more and more sections of like healthy foods and stuff at the airport. I'm like, thank you for someone like me.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff happening there. As an aside, you asked earlier how Eric and I met. And he and I actually did kind of meet when he was at Epic and I was doing O2. So we have a shared athlete with Epic and James Hobart.
Oh.
And James has become a friend, and he's a great dude and a great O2 athlete. And he was picked up by Epic, which I would imagine was your doing probably. And so when he was picked up by Epic, I reached out to Epic just via Instagram. I was like, hey, this is Drink O2, and we should collaborate or something or whatever. And I got a really polite decline from Epic. And they
Was
said,
it him?
They said something
What a
like,
dick.
we're not really, we don't know what citric acid is, so we're just gonna pass on this.
Well, it wasn't citric acid because we actually use citric acid at Epic, but it was. I literally remember someone on my team at the time coming to me and saying, "Hey, James's other brand, Drink O2, reached out." I'm like, "Oh yeah," they reached out about a collaboration on like Instagram or something. You want to do it? And I literally remember you had sent us some O2.
Yeah.
So I picked up a can, I looked at it, and I was like, I don't know what sodium citrate is. I don't know what monopotassium phosphate is. I was like, no, Epic is all about natural ingredients.
Right.
So politely say no.
You elite motherfucker.
Exactly. I know. He told me that last night.
Yeah, for the first
I'm
time.
like, that was you? Really?
Yeah. And I was like,
Tell me what that is.
Well,
What
that's
is-
a great question because that's what we were talking about. He's like, so monopotassium phosphate, what is that? I'm like, it's potassium. That's it. It's potassium.
And we all
It's
need
just
potassium.
100%.
Yeah.
It's one of the two
It's
electrolytes
electrolytes.
included in O2.
So where are you getting that? Where are you extracting that potassium? What's it coming from? I get my potassium because Dylan, my buddy who does a lot of nutrition shit for me, is always talking about, you're low in, your blood test isn't going to show it because the blood tests are such bullshit of when they take it, what you've eaten, what's in your bloodstream, and is it intercellular or is it blood? He's like, I need you to up your sodium. I need you to up your potassium. I need you to up your magnesium. He's like, calcium, you're eating vegetable. You're going to get your calcium. You're going to get your vitamin D. You're out in the sun. He's like, potassium, sodium. And everyone I've had on that talks about nutrition, same thing, magnesium, potassium, and sodium.
Totally.
So potassium's in here. I get my potassium a lot from potatoes and from avocados. I try to eat 2 to 3 avocados a day and try to at least one big potato.
Yep.
So where is this potassium coming from? Are you squeezing potatoes?
We're not squeezing avocados into O2. I think that would be an interesting experiment.
They're great in smoothies, though.
I know,
avocados.
dude. I do that every morning.
You can put the seed in.
I was just going to ask you, do you put the seed in
No,
it? There
I
are
don't.
people that do that.
Really?
Yep.
Do you?
There are
There is
psychopaths.
Break the NutriBullet, man.
There is a place called Greens and Proteins in Las Vegas. It's a really nice health food restaurant that I go to. There's a chain of them. And there's a shake they do with the chocolate peanut butter shake with avocado, and they put the seed in.
Get out of here.
Yeah, they put the seed in, and I forget the benefits of it, but
Is it good?
Yeah, it tastes delicious. You can't taste the seed. I'm thinking right now, I had a smoothie before I came here.
Yeah.
My buddy and I worked out at CrossFit Paradiso.
Oh, yeah.
And I just introduced him to CrossFit. He's like a bodybuilder type. And he's like, I'm quitting.
So,
it's like, I'm coming to CrossFit.
Nice.
He's like, I love this. He's like, let's go get a smoothie. I'm buying. I took him to Air One.
Nice.
The smoothie I bought was $21.
Get the fuck out.
So you had a discount code or something?
Yeah. I swear to God, $21.
Oh my
I did
God.
add
Oh
some
my
whey protein to it, but it had,
Oh, man.
it was like matcha. There was, the things like, I saw it on the wall and I was
Gold
just like,
flakes.
I just went like, I started and I'm like, Dad, just fucking, just give it to me. I know you guys have nerded out on so much, like
man.
why I need the proprio jelly or whatever, propriolis or whatever it's, I'm not going to die.
Shit.
And I was like,
That's
21
crazy.
fucking
That's
dollars.
crazy. I haven't been to an Air One yet, but that lines up with everything I've heard.
You have to go.
We're going tomorrow morning.
You
It's
have
on
to
our
go.
agenda.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, we gotta visit the Mecca.
It'll blow your mind. My buddy was in there, and he's from Dallas, and they don't have an Air One. And he goes, "We're walking around," and I said earlier, "Let's go to Whole Foods," but I took him to Air One instead. And he looks at me at one point, and he goes, "This isn't Whole Foods." And I was like, "No, it's like Whole Foods on steroids."
Yeah,
And he's
exactly.
like, "Dude, this is like, wow." And I was like, "Yeah, it's just a whole nother level." And they're opening, they're starting to branch out and sell places. So
Nice. Well, that is one thing. I mean, Whole Foods really set the standard, I think, for quality for a lot of chains and a lot of products. You know? And so when we were developing O2, from the outset, we developed it to be what's called Whole Foods compliant. So Whole Foods has a no-no list, like a lot of these other brands do, or grocers do, that if you have one of these ingredients in it, they won't take it. And I think that's the right thing to do.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially in a
because the government's not going to do it. So
exactly,
somebody
that's
else.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you were asking about natural flavors earlier. Well, that is an ambiguous term, and it'd be great to get some definition around that. You know, ours are extracts from the fruits and roots, hyper distilled, and then put in O2. But it could be, I don't know what LaCroix does, but they could do something similar or totally different.
Right.
So, and it could be great or it could be really, really
Sure.
bad. You know. So who knows?
So you still haven't told me how you get the potassium in there.
We buy it non-GMO because we're Whole Foods compliant, and so we're not squeezing avocados or tomatoes. But you know, we were pretty selective when we were putting together the ingredient list. Not only potassium, sodium, but where it was coming from and everything else. And I'll tell you this much: it's very, very not only costly but also challenging to make a non-GMO compliant product that tastes good and that you can afford to sell.
Yeah,
right?
You're in a space that's tough. It's that whole concept of like making something that's good for people, that's healthy, and still trying to make money out of it.
And it's got to taste good too.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, like if it doesn't taste good now, it's like this
this stuff tastes great. And there's something to tasting. Like I forget what they call it, but your mind starts to work when you know that you're taking something healthy. It's almost like your mind will even bend a little to I feel good because I know, because that's how I am about it. Probably the diet that I eat now and the drinks that I drink. When I was a kid, I probably never would.
100%.
yeah,
But my daughter, I've only raised on good food, and she loves, healthy stuff. And when I gave her O2, it's like the kid's never had Coca-Cola. So she's 5 years old. She drinks O2. She's like it's like a treat for her.
Better than water.
Oh my God.
Right.
Like, Dad,
right.
can I have?
What is this?
Yeah, she's like, I love listening to when she was 3, can I have some recovery drink? Or 4,
That's
whatever it
amazing.
was. No, it's great stuff. I love it. Can you just send me more?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Anytime, man. Absolutely. I can't send it to Alaska, but as long as you're stateside domestic, I'd be happy to.
It's so good. Chris, did you try it?
No.
Why not? You eat like
did we drink
McDonald's. You eat McDonald's and you eat like shit, don't you?
I think we gave Renee the only other can.
You eat like shit, don't you?
No.
Don't lie. Chris?
Chris, you're being shit shamed right now.
No. I don't eat McDonald's, but I probably don't eat well.
I know you don't. I know you too well. He parties a lot too.
What-
Now you're going to want to drink this afterwards. I know the takeaway from this whole show for someone that's like,
Hangovers.
well, like no one listens to the show unless they're into CrossFit, and CrossFitters don't party that much. But these guys could care less about the shit we're talking about. I'm talking about the guys that record the show for me, like Machete used to, and Chris, who works with us sometimes. I knew while we're talking about this that he's sitting over there kind of listening half-heartedly, and when he heard, oh yeah, it's really good for hangovers, he's like, I gotta get some of this. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's so funny. So
Marked it in the-
when we first launched, I had an opportunity to kind of sneak into the Arnold Sports Festival in Columbus because I was judging the CrossFit competition there, and my buddy ran the event, so he kind of just snuck me in, and I didn't have to pay for the booth. And so we sampled out a bunch of O2 as sort of payment to do that. And the podium finalists on the team side, they each got a case of O2. So it was teams of 6, I think it was. And the next day, and so of course, like any scrappy entrepreneur, I included my card in each case of O2 that was awarded to the athletes. And the next day, the owner of, I believe what's still one of, if not the top selling CrossFit account for O2. I mean, they move like an ungodly amount of product. It's PSKC CrossFit in Portsmouth, Ohio. And the owner sent me an email the next day. He's like, bro, how do I get this shit in my gym? We went out so hard last night, and I had 2 of these this morning, and I feel great. How can I start selling this? So I'm like, I can't. The hangover thing, man, I just can't escape it.
You know what's sad about that is that like sometimes people go down one space and something happens and they end up in a whole other thing. I mean, I think I remember hearing, the first I was ever introduced was Red Bull. I was over in England visiting a friend, and we went out partying one night, and he's like, dude, get a Red Bull. And I was like, what's Red Bull? He's like, dude, it's this drink. It's like cocaine. And he's like, you're going to drink it and you're going to be fucking like, just fucking partying hard. He's like, get a Red Bull and vodka. And I'm like, wait, so I'm going to get a stimulant? And I'm like, I don't understand how this works. He's like, just do it. So I ended up drinking, no joke, because I used to party hard. I was like, probably had like 11 Red Bull and vodkas.
Oh God.
And, like all night we start drinking at like 8.
In.
Next thing you know, I hook up with some girl. I go back to her place in Brixton, which is at the time a very dangerous part of London. And so I end up there like no care, and because I'm like, yeah,
I'm invincible.
And she and I like hook up in bed, and then she goes to sleep, and I'm like tapping her like, hey, hey, I can't sleep right now. And she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I just
Want to go for a run?
Yeah, seriously, I was like, I don't feel good though. I feel like I need to do some shit. And I'm like, do you have any work around the yard? And I was like, I can't sleep. I was like laying in bed, and she's like, you need to close your eyes. I'm like, I can't. And then the next day, I'm like, dude, what was it? 'Cause I told you. Why'd you drink like 11 of them? So, but I heard Red Bull was like some Austrian guy made this thing, and then some DJs found out about it, and it got into like the party world, and it became popular that way. And now, you know, one of the things about it, they're popular in the extreme sports world, and it's like it's great, but these guys are they're athletes, and it's just Monster and Red Bull. It's kind of bullshit that they're these like sugar-filled drinks with their giant marketing budgets going into the sports world, like. Don't go into that. Go into their partying world. You know,
You think
advertise
those
that.
athletes are drinking that? There's no fucking way.
No.
There's no way. They
I
know
mean,
better.
I've got a couple friends that are sponsored. I won't say who. And I watch them, and I'm like, they're like, oh, sure, I drink them in the videos. But
Yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
And then never fucking again.
Right.
But yeah, it just kind of sucks that those. But who knows? You might just be like, you're not going to be at any CrossFit competitions. Next, you'll be at these like party events afterwards.
Oh, choose the next Red Bull.
We'll see you at like
in Austria, bro.
Yeah, Coachella the next day. Everyone's like, I have to get to the O2 tent. But thanks for doing the show. I appreciate it.
Man. Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys are great. And if they want to check this out, where are they going to go?
Drinko2.com.
Drinko2.com, and you can get it on Amazon. For some reason, are you not pushing that?
We're not pushing it that hard. You know, we have a pretty healthy online business in the Drinko2 website. We can deliver kind of a better experience and some other cool perks along with that. But people can get it on Amazon.
And we own that business, not Jeff Bezos.
Exactly.
Yeah. The only reason I push Amazon is because it's just so
It's easy, man. Yeah, totally. I get it.
It's that click,
get
that
it.
one click.
I know. Buy now.
And, you know, and they show you where's the cheapest place.
How many
to get
Amazon packages do you think you got this week?
We were just talking about this because I don't go to the store ever.
Right.
I probably, my wife has issues. So, so many. And it's
double digits.
And it's
I probably had 8. You know, like
way more
easily.
than 8. It's so wrong because of the packaging. We have to figure something out. We have to. I don't care if they just hand it to me and it's an original. Like here's your razor. Thanks.
Yeah.
Don't put it in a box. Don't put it in paper.
Yeah,
I would rather have that. But the drones, once they get the drones coming.
I know. Well, and then once they bought Whole Foods, I was like, that's like 80% of my expenditures. All owned by a single being. And I'm like, oh, man.
I was at one place that was pretty good in Sun Valley. I bought some stuff, and they said, did you bring a bag? And I never bring a bag, and they made me feel guilty. And they said, you can buy a bag or you can take one of those boxes. And they had boxes lined up, like a pile of just boxes. And it was people bringing their Amazon boxes and just throw them there. And then you can take your shit home with it. So it's like, I don't know what do they call it, recycling or upcycling. It's not upcycling. It's actually recycling. You're using it for the same shit it was used for again and again, which I think is great. So throw some of your boxes in the back of your car and then take it to the grocery store with you.
I like it.
And I'm becoming a big environmentalist. But go to drinko2.com. Is there anywhere else? What's your Instagram's different though?
At Drinko2 Recovery.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At Drinko2 Recovery. Are you sponsoring any athletes?
Carrie Pierce, Amanda Barnhart.
Oh, Amanda, my friend is her coach, Mitch.
Oh, yeah. You know Mitch?
Yeah, I know Mitch very well.
He was one of the first retailers of O2.
Oh, he's
I
great.
used to hand deliver O2 to
Centerville?
Yep.
Is it Centerville CrossFit?
Yep.
Mitch is my... I've partied with Mitch a lot.
Nice. I can see
Yeah.
that.
Every time I would work in Dayton or Cincinnati or something, Mitch and I would hang out. He's a good dude.
Great dude.
Smart guy. Knows his CrossFit too.
Obviously, for
Did
sure.
a good job with her. And his
Totally.
dad's a freak.
Really?
Oh, his dad started the CrossFit. His dad was in the Masters.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Oh, I
many
didn't know
times.
that.
Yeah. His dad's a former gymnast.
No shit.
And yeah, he's a badass
Oh, I'll be
motherfucker.
damned.
James Hobart.
Oh, yeah.
And soon to be announced, Easy Muhammad.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. He's what's he? What was he wasn't in the games
I think it was 2016. I think it was the last time he was in the games. But he's making a run this year.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Usually when they do, a lot of those guys make it. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for doing the show. That was fun. You answered a lot of questions I think a lot of people have out there. So
happy to.
So I'll see if I can drive home and I don't wreck my car.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna go have a martini next door though.
All right. Well, don't blame that.
Thanks, guys.
Hey,
Thank
thanks.
you.